Hello folks, today I'd like to give you my personal thoughts on why Critical Role is not using Daggerheart for Season 4 and they're instead going to be using D&D 5th Edition 2024. And spoiler alert, it has to do with money. It almost always has to do with money when decisions are made that don't seem to make a lot of sense. Now, the first thing that I want to do is I want to go over and take a look at Critical Role's official response. So right here, this is a Wargamer article. You can see the URL right here. You can go find this and search it. It says, explaining Critical Role's decision to opt for Dungeons & Dragons, creative director Marisha Reyes says, when creating the worlds that we build and explore in all our content at Critical Role, we've always held strong to the belief that we should use the system that best supports the story we want to tell. We are certainly spoiled for choice when it comes to TTRPG systems that the cast knows and loves. So that means they have a lot of systems at their disposal and the cast knows them and loves them. So we are very excited to explore more of both Daggerheart and Dungeons & Dragons in our near and hopefully distant future. Okay, I want to break this down a little bit. So first of all, we've always held strong to the belief that we should use the system that best supports the story we want to tell. The first thing that comes to my mind is you're telling me that when you began designing Daggerheart, and I don't know how long it took them to design Daggerheart, a year, a couple years, however long they've been working on it, they never stopped to consider to design a game system that would support the story that they want to tell on their show. Like, I don't know. This is just me. I find that hard to believe. I think that they probably would have been like, okay, this is what we want our game system to do because this is our style of play. This is the story and the plots and all the scenarios that we tend to do. So let's have a game system that supports that. I can tell you personally that my team and I are currently working on our own TTRPG new game system, and I am 100% making it a game that I want to play. There's no doubt about it. And once we start developing it, we already are developing it. Once we actually start having an alpha and we can actually use it and run it, I guarantee you I'm going to be running that game system because it's mine and I like it. I have a massive dog in the race when it comes to it. So I find it hard to believe that Critical Role didn't think about that when they were designing Daggerheart. That is, I don't buy it. I think that's a big stretch. I've heard a lot of people saying things also like it would be a lot to ask of the Critical Role cast and their guests to learn new game system. Like instead of just using D&D 5e 2024, which is what they're going to be doing for season 4, it would be a lot to ask of them to learn a new game system. And they're literally in the statement here. It says the cast knows and loves a whole bunch of different systems. And so I think that theory kind of doesn't work. I also don't think it's very logical to think that professionals can't learn a new game system. Like if you're saying, okay, look, you guys are going to make a bunch of money and we're going to run this game system. And they're like, we don't know the game system. Like, trust me. If you're a professional and you got money on the line with it, you can learn a new game system. It's not that challenging. I've played Daggerheart, and yes, it's different than D&D in certain ways, but it's so D&D adjacent that somebody who knows D&D is gonna figure out Daggerheart, and it's gonna be pretty quick. And lest we not forget, please, we should remember that a game system really just involves the mechanics. It just involves the mechanics. And we all know that many of these actual play shows, these like Critical Role and others, mechanics are only a small part of those shows. Most of these shows involve exploration and social interaction and just talkie-talkie scenes. Like large swaths involve talkie-talkie. And you don't need mechanics for that. You could be using Daggerheart, you could be using D&D, you could be using Pathfinder, you could be using Shadowdark, you could be using DC-20. It doesn't matter. If you're not rolling dice and the mechanics aren't involved, it doesn't matter what game system you're playing. And lots of these shows that I've seen, there's not a whole lot of dice rolling. Combats are a feature at times, but a lot of times you don't see a lot of combat. I also saw some comments of folks saying that because they brought Chris Perkins and Jeremy Crawford on board, and they are, D&D 5th edition guys, that it would be probably easier for them to design stuff for D&D 5th edition 2024 as opposed to Daggerheart. And while that is probably true, come on, guys. These guys are professionals. These Chris Perkins, Jeremy Crawford, these guys have been in the business so long they can figure out a new game system and design stuff for it. Like, they can do that. So to think that these guys aren't good enough to figure out, to learn Daggerheart and what's under the hood and then design stuff for it it's not giving them enough credit. It really isn't. So when it comes down to it, I just have this feeling that the official reason stated for not going and using Daggerheart for season 4 just doesn't really stack up. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And when you think about it too, this is a huge missed opportunity for Critical Role. Can you imagine? So you have millions of people watching your show every week, right? You got eyeballs on your screen watching you. Everything you do is a potential advertisement, right? If you're playing Daggerheart every week, I think they do it 3 weeks out of 4. If you're doing this every single week and people are seeing you play Daggerheart, that is an ongoing ad spot for your product. New people are going to tune in, right? People who are on the fence about Daggerheart will see a cool mechanic and be like, oh, I really like that. I like that mechanic of hope and fear, and the bad guys don't get to do an action unless the dungeon master has fear, right? So people might see that, and then they might come over the fence, and they might buy your product, and they might be fans of it. And you have an ongoing, potentially evergreen advertisements, because people go back and watch previous seasons of Critical Role. That's a thing. Big missed opportunity. Why would you sacrifice that? You have to ask yourself, why would you sacrifice an ongoing ad spot for your product week after week after week with millions of eyeballs? That cannot be understated. Lest we not forget that that also helps to solidify Daggerheart in the TTRPG space. Bringing in more players takes away, to some extent or more extent, some of the market share that D&D has a stranglehold on. Introducing more, I have a video coming out next week that is going to show the decline of D&D and how they're losing and things are going pretty poorly for D&D. And Daggerheart continuing to take market share would just further cement the decline of D&D. I'll get more into that next week, but I want to mention that right now because that leads into my next point. When you read corporations, and at this point, Daggerheart or Darrington Press, Critical Role, they have 70 plus employees or something. They're definitely a medium-sized company, right? They're not small potatoes anymore, and their revenue stream is in the millions of dollars. These guys are a medium-sized company, and when you get into corporate world like this, when corporations put out these official videos, these announcements, and these statements, and your spidey senses tingle, and you suspect that something doesn't sit quite right about all of this, it's probably because there's some corporate BS speak going on. There's some horse crappery going on, and there's an actual real reason. And so you have to ask yourself, why would they give up this massive missed opportunity? Money. There's got to be, when things don't make sense, you follow the money. You follow the trail to the money. So imagine this. Imagine your Wizards of the Coast. Imagine your D&D 2024 sales are not as high as you would have people believe. And things aren't doing too well. You have your lead designers are leaving the company. And Hasbro is breathing down your neck because you need money, because you need more money, because stockholders need their market value to go up. Imagine you're in that position. You need to generate revenue. And imagine if Critical Role, this massive streamer, this show that promotes D&D every single time they run, millions of people are watching them play D&D. It's promoting your product, it's promoting your brand. Imagine if they're about to leave. That could be that's maybe not an existential crisis, but it's not good. And so let's say you're this struggling Wizards of the Coast. You cannot deny that they definitely appear to be struggling recently. And Daggerheart and Critical Role is going to play Daggerheart. This is not good. So you approach them and you say, hey, what would it look like if instead of, or maybe Critical Role waited to see the success of Daggerheart to get more leverage, and then they approached Wizards of the Coast. But point is, at some point, these two entities come together and they discuss, well, what would it look like if Critical Role ran D&D 5th edition 2024 for season 4? You could hear my cat crying. He's a grouchy old man. He's down there. He's out. He wants food or something. And they start talking, and they're like, well, we don't have to run Daggerheart. We could probably run D&D 2024. What would that look like? This is what it would look like. It would look like cash in the pocket. I definitely think there is some sort of sponsorship deal that has been worked out between Critical Role and Wizards of the Coast. 100% cannot be a doubt about that in my mind. So I think just the simple fact that they're playing D&D 2024 tells me, I mean, that's an ongoing ad spot in and of itself. That right there could just be the consideration for a deal and an exchange of money, services for money to continue to play your game. But also, I really heavily suspect that you're going to see like solid ad spots, right, during season 4 for D&D Beyond or others of Wizards of the Coast products. I really think you're going to see those. And obviously we'll see and time will tell and if I'm right or not, but I think that's going to happen. I definitely think that's going to happen because I think they made a deal, they came together, and there's an exchange of money going on. And I'm just calling it what it is. I'm not saying that that's wrong or good. This is a completely neutral comment. I'm just saying I think that's what's happening. To add on to that, I will go so far as to in fact say that this is probably a smart choice. This is probably a very smart move to make more money than you otherwise would. Yes, you're giving up promoting Daggerheart on an ongoing basis, but think about it. Daggerheart's already selling out. Daggerheart has already been sold out. Like they have more print runs. They can't keep it stocked, right? And so you think about the success of it already, and you're like, do we really need to make it more successful? You're right. So, but think about the cost of printing, shipping, distributing, warehousing, all of the costs that are involved in books. Super expensive. It's not a cheap thing, right? When you get into warehousing and shipping and print, it adds up. The costs add up. However, I will tell you, sponsorships, they're easy money. It's like printing money. All you got to do is just talk about a product on your show. That's all you got to do. I do sponsorships from time to time, not super often, but when I do, it's kind of like printing money. It takes a little bit of time. You got to come up with a little ad spot, what you're going to say and stuff like that. But compared to the expenses and time involved in printing, warehousing, and shipping and distributing books and stuff, like it's way easier, and it can make a lot of money compared to selling books. And when you look at what Critical Role charges for their ad spots, they're probably somewhere around $100,000 for an ad spot at this point. They usually have 3 or 4 in an episode. Like you can make an easy argument they're making $250,000 plus just on ad sponsorships each episode alone. You're talking about they got the revenue on Twitch, but the sponsorships, dude. The sponsorships, that's where a lot of money is. And if you can get Wizards of the Coast to sponsor your videos and all you got to do is do some talky about their products, that is a really smart business move in so much as immediate cash in your pocket right now for almost no effort. And it also keeps your income streams spread out. You got your books, you got your Twitch ad revenue, you've got merchandise and all that stuff, and then you have sponsorships. And it furthermore solidifies a business relationship between Critical Role and Wizards of the Coast so that they're on good terms and have a nice business relationship with one of the dominant player in the TTRPG space. So I think there's a lot of things about that sort of deal that are very smart, which make me believe that they almost certainly did that. Now it looks like there's other speculations going on as well as to what the real reason is. It seems like I'm not the only one who's like, that doesn't sound like the actual reason, what the official thing that we're getting is. And so online speculation has a few different things. And I want to look at these really quick because I think it's important to have a well-rounded view of why something is being done. People say it's a safer, battle-tested choice. Many fans argue that with a massive, ambitious West Marches style campaign led by Brennan Lee Mulligan, which, by the way, it's not actually a West Marches campaign. It sounds more like they're running 3 concurrent campaigns with a rotating cast at times, but it does not actually sound what a West Marches style campaign actually is, not from my understanding of it. I could be wrong, but I don't think it's actually West Marches. Sorry, that's an aside. I couldn't help myself. Featuring 13 players split into 3 themed parties using D&D as a smart, low-risk choice. Daggerheart is still new and less familiar, while D&D's 5e system, even the 2024 revision, offers stability and proven reliability for long-form combat campaigns, creative confidence, and DM familiarity. Brenly Mulligan is widely known as a master level 20 dungeon master in D&D, so sticking with what he knows means a smoother, more creative narrative. Fans believe this familiarity allows him to improvise confidently, especially in a complicated format with multiple tables and hidden narratives. I think there's possibly some validity to those two ideas, but I still go back to the fact that these are professionals and they can figure it out. And I really think that if they really wanted to, they absolutely could. And I'll also go back to the idea that half of these shows or more doesn't even have anything to do with mechanics. It's mostly just talking and voice acting and stuff, which is I'm not judging that. It is what it is. But when you're doing that, you don't need dice and you don't need mechanics, and it doesn't matter what system you're running. And by the way, asking for a one-off roll here and there for like an intelligence check or an investigation check or a stealth check, those aren't real mechanics. Those are like surface level easy street mechanics. So no matter if Daggerheart does it a little bit differently, they can learn that stuff so quickly. The real meat of mechanics lies elsewhere in the game. It's not during exploration and it's not during social interactions. Another fan theory is time and readiness constraints. Daggerheart, while promising, has only recently been released and remains playtested in limited settings. One article notes Daggerheart hasn't faced the stress of extended campaign arcs, while D&D 5e has decades of proven play behind it. Fans infer that the production timeline and scale simply didn't allow enough time for extensive Daggerheart development. While that's certainly possible, I suppose, have you not realized that the same applies to D&D 5th edition 2024? They didn't have time for extensive playtesting, and we already have it, and we already know that there are so many things that didn't get fixed that should have been. There are some things that they changed for some reason that made things confusing or vague or broken. Like D&D 5th edition 2024 is very much half-baked, and that is clear from community feedback we've received on it. To say that this untested new version of D&D is somehow better and proven than Daggerheart, I don't think that argument holds water one bit. And the last fan theory here was avoiding pressure on a new system launch. Others think Critical Role may be steering clear of debuting their own system in their flagship campaign to avoid overloading the launch of Daggerheart. Keeping the new RPG as a sidebar for experimental or short-form content like Age of Umbra lets it grow organically without being weighed down by high expectations. I feel like this is probably the more reasonable explanation if you're going to go with something besides following the money, because if you have your brand new Daggerheart is there and you're also launching season 4 and fans are super excited and they want something awesome, you're pulling in a new dungeon master, you have Brenly Mulligan, you have new players, a new cast, you're trying a new format. At some point you ask yourself, how many variables do we really want to change? How many things are we going to change, and are we going to screw up the secret sauce? So I can see an argument for trying to keep some of your variables consistent. Like we all know D&D 5th edition 2024 is a little bit different, but we'll figure it out. So let's keep that consistent while we change our dungeon master, while we change our format, while we change our cast members. Like, I think that has probably the most validity and logic of any of the fan theories. By the way, folks, my next Kickstarter, Feybound, Trickery of the Wilds, is going to be launching soon. There's a link down below. Go ahead and click that thing. Follow the project so that you get notified on launch, because we're gonna have early backer specials where you're gonna save some money on these cool books. It's going to be the biggest 5th edition expansion for Fey content ever. And we've actually done a little homework, we've researched, and we couldn't find any Fey project this ambitious. We're going to be giving you 6 new races, 10 new subclasses, over 100 monsters, Fey mechanics such as Fey contracts, boons, and banes. We're going to be giving you Fey magic items, a full Fey campaign setting with 4 new Fey courts that are super cool. I'm really excited about these Fey courts. And a 12-part adventure arc, and I wrote all of the adventures in this myself, they're really good. I think they are, at least. And we have such amazing artwork. You can see as I just scroll here some of the awesome artwork that we have for this project. I think it's amazing. And some of these classes, some of these subclasses, a witch. You're going to have an actual witch for the first time ever. I'm really excited about that one. And we are completely throwing away the idea of stretch goals. We're not going to sit here and make you try to pledge more or get your friends to pledge more so that you can unlock this really cool thing that you want at this amount of total funding. We literally sat down and we decided in advance everything that we wanted to put in this book to make it the best, awesomest Fae-themed expansion ever, and we've put it in the book. It's in the book. We're calling it pre-stretched. It's pre-stretched, which means everything is included. We're not going to make you like miss out on the super cool thing that you really wanted because we didn't raise enough money. Everything is in there. Every single thing you want is going to be in this book. So please feel free to go click that little link down in the description or the pinned comment. Follow Faebound so that you get notified when it launches. You can get in on the early backer specials, and you can get yourself some really cool books. And you know, if you enjoy the content I create and you want some cool loot too, this is one of the best ways that you can support us is by supporting our Kickstarters. You get books. You know, obviously we make revenue so we can continue making videos and continue making more books and more products to help more people who want to play D&D or who want to play other cool game systems like Shadow Dark maybe, or the new game system I'll be developing. If you'd like to watch another fine DM Layer video, you can do so somewhere at some of these links here. There's probably a subscribe button. As I say, happy game mastering. We'll see you next time.